Hello, my name is Jan Morris, and I'm an author and illustrator. I have 9 children's books, wholesome books for a wonderful read. I think it's very important for children to have conservative values and to read books that are really good for them. And this is my story.
Welcome to the Fair Business Australia podcast. Future-proof your business, impact your community. I'm your host, Rebecca Lloyd. Welcome, Fair Business Australians, to another episode of the Fair Business Australia podcast. Children's books, author, illustrator. I'm so excited to have Jan with me today. Jan, welcome to the show. I understand that you have authored 15 books, 9 of which you've authored and illustrated children's books. You have illustrated for other people as well. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming on. Who is Jan? Why is she an author? How did she learn to illustrate? Let's go. When did you first discover that you were fantastic at writing?
I don't really know if there was a kind of definitive moment. I've always been able to just do little sketches and things, as growing up, because my sister's an artist and she used to give us little artistic lessons. And so we used to learn how to draw things and she'd pretend that she was the teacher. But the first drawing that I did put into the book was The Good Samaritan. And I was very, very nervous because I didn't think it was very good. I've actually redrawn him since then and he looks ever so much like Jesus now. But I went to art college for 1 year and I hated it because I had to do stuff when I wasn't in the mood. So what I do now is I just sit down when I'm in the mood and it just comes out of me. And I often write after I've drawn. So I illustrate some ideas and then I write the rhyming story to go with it.
Oh, how lovely. Now I detect a slight Everyone detects a ever so slight accent. Where are you from? Talk to us about your origins.
Okay, so I was taught to speak the Queen's English. My dad was in the army. So I was actually born in Malaya while he was over there in the dog training unit. He was in the war dogs. And so we grew up in the army. My mum's a Cockney. But the joke of the family is that she had elocution lessons. We used to call them electrician lessons. So she speaks proper like what I does. And my dad is a Geordie. So he's got a very strange accent when he's, up with his family. So I lived in the UK after we came back from the army. And then I went abroad. I was working as an overseas representative for all those lovely holidaymakers, so in Greece and in Spain. And then I met Philip, and he's a Welshman. So I think my accent's a bit of everything, what we call Heinz 57. And my sisters think I sound like an Aussie, and Aussies think that I sound like a very well-spoken English person.
So awesome. So you're married to Phil. How old were you when you got married? That's a bit of a story in itself, isn't it?
Yeah, never wanted to get married, never wanted to have children. Those things that you put over your life and say, I'm never going to do that. Had to break some of those off. So I met him when I was 29. We got married when I was 31 and had our son when I was 38. And Phil's 10 years older than me. So he's a very sprightly 75, almost 76-year-old now, and I'm 66. So there's a 10-year gap. Works very well, though.
I've actually met Phil and he's a lovely, lovely, very gentle, well-spoken, gentle man. So he's lovely. So illustrating, do you have a favourite medium? And I am going to ask you to share some stories about what illustrating was like when you were growing up. So let's go. Do you have a favourite medium first?
I do. I do all of my drawings now on Procreate, which is amazing. And you can get it on iPad for like $20. And actually it was our son. He creates all sorts of designs for websites and he does the coding as well. And I was doing something on my Microsoft and he said, oh, for goodness sake, Mum, if you're going to do it properly, get Procreate. And I was like, no, I don't want iPad. And in the end, I capitulated. And honestly, I haven't looked back. It's amazing because when you paint or when you draw and you make a mistake, you've either got to rub it out, or if it's paint, you've got to wait for it to dry. And I don't do that. I'm like, I want to do it right now. I want it to be done now. So with Procreate, if you make a mistake, you just tap twice and it takes the mistake away and you can just carry on. It's really good.
Oh gosh, if only we had a tap twice for our lives, right?
Oh,
Anyway.
wouldn't that be good?
Anyway, so talk to us about, you're clearly a very animated and fun. I've known Jan for quite a few years, actually. In fact, Jan was one of my very faithful, long-suffering with High D Rebecca volunteers for Fair Business Australia during COVID. She definitely has my ear. She's actually very wise, as well as being very, very fun. But why don't you share some of the stories of your childhood? How did you get into authoring? How did you get into illustrating? I'm sure there's some angst there somewhere along the way, because every good story has that. So over to you.
Oh, definitely. Never thought for a minute that I would be an author or an illustrator. My dad's an author. He actually wrote 4 books, How to Train Dogs and Their Owners. I never ever read one single one of them, to be honest. And when the first book came out, which is this one, Heaven is All About Him, I didn't actually illustrate that one. That came through my journals. So when I became a Christian, I'm just a teenager. I'm only 14. Phil and I both got saved a week after each other. And my mentor was called Christine. She was a beautiful lady. And she said to me, if you have any questions, the best thing you can do is to journal them. And I thought, oh, journal them. I don't do writing, like not that kind of writing. So anyway, I bought a journal. I went down to Coorong and I picked a really beautiful one, had a lovely scripture on the front. I think it was Be Still and Know That I Am God. It's a good one for me. And, the outside was all gold and it was so pretty. So I started writing in that and asking questions. And she was right. It was weird because when I asked a question, somehow I'd write the answer somewhere in that journaling page. And then I noticed, as I went back over your journal, you should always do that to see what God's been saying. I noticed that some of them were in rhyme, and that was a bit weird. And I thought, oh, this one's a poem. So I started pulling the poems out and putting them into Word. And then God would say, that's not for you, that's for Karen, or that's for, Sharon or whoever. And so I'd go, oh, okay, well, this is my poem then. But anyway, I'll be obedient and I'll send it to that person. And they would always come back with some story about, oh, I prayed about that this morning, or God was showing me that last week, or I was talking to my friend about that. And I thought that was really weird. I was like, okay. So I spoke to Christine about it. I said, I don't know what's going on here, but I get a feeling that when I write that they're for somebody else. And she said, yes, that's quite normal. I went, oh, is it? That's how God speaks to us sometimes. So it became like a little ministry. So God showed me that when somebody bought a book, or even if they just looked at the book, I would flick through the pages and open it. And I'd say, that's a word for you. And then they'd read it. And usually they'd cry, which again is really weird. But so after that happened, I just, I just started to share them with people who I thought God wanted me to share them with. And I didn't actually have that printed until Christine passed. And she went to heaven. It's got to be 6-7 years ago now. She had motor neuron disease. I've never seen someone die so beautifully because she just, loved Jesus so much. And so I just felt like, well, okay, I'm going to put them in the book, like she kept saying, put them in a book, put them in a book. So we put them in a book. And the name of it, Heaven is All About Him, just came one day as I was writing. So that was the first one. I think could have been 2017, maybe 2019. Yeah, something like that. And so that was that. As far as I was concerned, I was done. I wrote a book. I only ordered 50 because I thought no one's going to really want to read it. How awful is that? God tells me, do that, and this is going to be amazing. And, your words mean things to people. And that in your mind, you still say, yeah, well, maybe someone won't buy them. Anyway, sold the 50 straight away, had a launch and everything, and then ordered another 200, then ordered another 300. And yeah, it was pretty amazing that people were actually then emailing me and saying, oh, you've got no idea, And I'd also second guess God. I'd do this and I'd pick one. It'd be, oh, I don't know whether that person's going to really like that. And God would go, are you listening to me or making your own decisions? So I'd send it thinking, oh, they're just going to turn around and say, yeah, thanks, it was a nice poem. But then they'd come back. I sent one that I'd written for Christine when she passed. And I thought, I can't send this to somebody. It's about dying. It's about going to heaven and meeting Jesus and running towards him and all of this. But she came back and she said, my mother died last night, she said, and I was just so pleased to get that poem. And I was like, okay, I know. Makes you cry, doesn't it? Don't cry. You have your makeup on, dear.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's happened a few times. I had a girlfriend. Can I tell this story? She was somebody. She'd been into drugs, and she was now on antidepressants. And I wrote this beautiful poem, and it was called Lily. And she always wanted to be called Lily. So when I wrote it, she doesn't know that it's been written because we've lost contact. But I tried to get hold of her. God said, "Find Lily." And so I tried to get hold of her, and I was going through all my phone trying to find a number for her. And in the end, I found it, and I thought, okay, I'm going to send the poem. So I sent the poem, and I said, I don't know if you remember me, but I wrote a poem about what you told me and what your experience was, and I thought I'd send it to you. And so this comes back, this little text. I'm so sorry, but I don't know this person, but that is amazing, and that story is me. That poem is all about me. And I said, oh, okay. So then I actually sent her a little thing back saying, well, I'm so glad that you told me that because God told me to find Lily. And I don't think I was supposed to find the original Lily. I think this was for you. And she came back and she said, I'm undone.
Wow.
I know.
Wow. So you're writing these stories, you're dictating, seemingly from what you're saying, you're dictating what God is telling you to write. You're finding these people, you're sending it, they're selling like hotcakes. Where did the transition occur from writing to grown-ups to you're writing to inner childs to writing to physical children?
Actually, it was a guy called Wes Leeks. Do you know him? Yes, I think so. So I was at a Deborah conference, and they'd asked me to sit on a panel and answer questions when I first got the book out. And I thought, oh, this is really exciting. I've never done anything like this before. So I'm sitting on the panel, pretending that I know everything about authorship. And it was really good. And after that, we all had prayer, and Wes was going along the line and praying for us and giving us words. And he just put his hand in my hand like that. And he said, I see children's books. And I tried not to look, because you can't laugh when someone's prophesying over you. And my head kind of went, oh, I don't think so, mate. But my heart went, oh, like this, which was really strange because I'd never even thought about that. Never even crossed my mind. And so I went back and journaled, and God said, you already have one story. And I was like, okay. So I kept on going back and back, and I found the Good Samaritan. And I'd written the Good Samaritan in rhyme. I know it's not my story. I borrowed it from Jesus. But, I rewrote it in rhyme, and then I illustrate it not particularly well because it was the first one. And I was a bit frightened to put it out. And it was Philip actually said, just get it out there, Jan. It's a lovely poem. And if you don't like the drawings, somebody will like them. I mean, they're very childlike. So maybe the kids will like them. And so that went out, and that did quite well as well. And then the prodigal son came along, then the lost sheep. And then I woke up one morning, and all of a sudden I just heard, praise God for the flowers and bees. So I wrote, praise God for the flowers and bees. And then the latest one is the little donkey's best day ever. Because you know which little donkey that is, don't you? He's there with his mummy, and somebody comes and unties him. Did you know that donkeys have crosses on their backs? Have a look at the back of a donkey. They have like a darker colour from their normal colour across the shoulders and all the way down the back to the tail. So when I saw that, I thought, what a great idea. Pull all the story out from that, about he's in the barn and the rat doesn't like him and the dog teases him, the cat spits at him, but he knows there's something coming. He knows. Yeah. And then he gets untied and he falls in love with Jesus. And it just says every time that he feels his loss, he turns around and sees the mark of the cross. Oh, it's such a cute book. So that was the latest one. Didn't quite get it out in time for Easter.
Right. How beautiful. Now, we were saying before we started recording, Jen's often, when she hears from God, it starts to rhyme. And so the rhyming has actually become quite a feature, quite a staple in the children's books. Tell our audience about that, Jen, and what's the benefit of it with parents and with children?
I've always liked rhyming poetry. So when someone says I've written a poem and I read it and it doesn't rhyme, I'm kind of like, oh, okay. Because that's apparently, it's still poems, but it's just not a rhyming poem. But rhyming comes really easy to me, especially if I'm sitting with my journal. I mean, I can just rhyme off the cuff if I need to, but when I sit down and I really think about it, it comes very easily. And so the thing about rhymes is that when you're reading them to children, there's like a rhythm that comes in and the kids just love it. Their ears pick it up. One of my friends read it actually she was reading it herself. So she was an older little girl. And as she was reading it, her grandmother had recorded it. And as she was reading it, she suddenly stopped and went, oh, none of that rhymes. And she showed me the video and I was like, oh my God, that's so good. Because that's what I want. That's what I want kids to do, is go, oh, that rhymes. And then as they're reading, it makes it easier for them to maybe pick up the last word on the line. If it's one they don't really know, they know it rhymes with the one before it. And so, it helps children to actually read. But when you're reading out loud to a kid, I think that the whole rhyming thing for me, I just love it.
So good. So good. Did you ever have things come against your reading and writing when you were a child yourself that has kind of made you want to help other children to be able to read and write better?
I was a pretty good reader, but writing, physical writing was hard for me because I'm a lefty. So as I was writing, it always used to be, your hand would go across the pencil and it would be all scrubby and horrible, and you get black on your arm, and then you get into trouble with the teacher. So I guess I wasn't somebody that would just go out and write a story or something. But I liked reading stories, and my sister used to draw little stories and do like little cartoons, and so we'd do that together. Yeah, all of my sisters are very artistic. They all do something in the arty-farty world.
In the arty-farty world.
Are we allowed to say farty?
I believe so. Yes, we have lots of interesting things on this podcast. That's absolutely fine. So where is Jan going? You've already got 9 children's books, 15 books in total. What do you see for the next few years for yourself? But more importantly, I feel most importantly, what do you feel for the future of Australians' children now that we have a whole bunch of authors and illustrators from more of a conservative, more of a faith-based background, really starting to come out in the media? I saw a book just the other day about a little girl. She's a she, not a we. She's a daughter, an auntie, a mother. She's not.
I saw that one.
And I thought, wow, this is amazing that we're actually using arts to push back against an agenda. Do you ever see your work becoming politicized, or are you quite separate from that? What does that look like?
Oh, look, when I see some of the books that are out there, they're absolutely disgusting, and half of them shouldn't even be in libraries for little children to read. So, yeah, I know that God gets my dander up when I see books like that. So he has dropped some ideas into me. So there are some things that the thing that really pushes me is transgenderism, that whole thing about the boy and the girl, and I can change and I can be whatever I want to be, and you have to call me what I want, and you have to change your words. Yeah, that really gets my dander up, as I said. So there will be, I believe, in the future, books that are like that are pushing back against that. But one of the things that I know that God is saying to me is to be gentle, because there are so many people out there that don't know. They just haven't got a clue what's going on. And they're just, going along with what everybody else is doing. And until somebody actually says, hey, there's a better way, not in a way of, you shouldn't be doing that and don't take your children to that, but just a better way and a more gentle way. That's the way I think that my books are going to go. But they will probably get a little bit more controversial, but in a really lovely way. So I'm saying this is what I believe. This is what I'm doing. And as far as I'm concerned, this is the right thing. And nobody's going to tell me that it's not, in a nice way.
Beautiful. Now, choosing a creative path is a little bit controversial in itself for a Western culture that doesn't tend to, unless you're at the absolute pinnacle and peak and you're making gazillions of dollars, you're not really recognized as have chosen a real career. And I love that you have stayed true to your creativity for quite some time now. For people watching this podcast, what recommendations or suggestions would you have for people who might be a little bit older or who might have, strayed away from their roots, which are artistic? What would you say to them to be able to come back to center and to revisit those dreams and start to put pen to paper, proverbially or practically speaking?
Well, this was a complete surprise to me, so it wasn't something that I'd been thinking about. But if you have something in you, it's not supposed to be in there because God put it in there for you to bring it out. And if you're going to bring it out, then God has every single step covered. So you just have to listen, be still, know that He is God. Journaling really helps me. So if you've got ideas, to journal it and ask Him about, what to do. Also to get together with people that are in the same boat. There's a lot of Christian groups out there on Facebook that you can join, find out what they're doing, listen to what their stories are. At the moment, it's very difficult because there's millions and millions of books out there to get an actual publisher that will publish it for you. So I'm an independent author. I publish independently with Amazon. The difficulty with Amazon is that they can put any price they want on your book. So when I put $14, $15 on my book and they put it out there for $19, it really makes me annoyed because then people aren't going to buy a $19 book when, it's worth sort of 14 or 15. And the other thing is that I get $2 a book, which is, I'm not going to get rich on this, Rebecca. But what I do is I sell them from my website. So you go to my website and order it, and then I order it as an author at a special price, and then I pass that saving on to the people that are ordering. So if you are going to order a book, if you're overseas, then you'd have to do Amazon. But otherwise, anybody in Oz, they can come to my website and just order what they need. And I did have some like little groups of books. So there's a book of 4, there's a group of 4, and then there's a series of 5, and then there's all 9 together. I put a special price up there for anybody from the podcast that would like to have a look and see what they like.
So good. Now, and you've got a couple of books there. Would you want to show the audience just a couple of books? Jan actually had all of her books.
Good.
They all went at a business breakfast this morning, and this is all she's got left. So show us what you've got for us, Jan.
So this one is Buster Meets the Dugong. So this is the first one in the series of Buster Ruff Cheese. Now, Buster Ruff Cheese is this little Welsh dog who belonged to our son, John. And he isn't a real dog because we wouldn't let him have a dog because we said, no, you either go on holiday or you have an animal. So we decided we'd go on holiday. So this is Buster Ruff Cheese. And he's Ruff Cheese because he goes ruff, ruff. Apparently, that's what John said. And then one day he just came to me and said, Buster Ruff Cheese. And I said, where did that come from? Oh, he loves cheese. So he became Buster Ruff Cheese. He's actually upstairs on the bed. So John didn't get to take him home, or take him away when he left home. So this one is the first one where he meets the dugong. And he also meets other animals. So he meets, there you go, if I do that, then you can see the others. So that way.
Oh.
He meets the dugong and he meets the koala and the numbat and the quokka. And the reason I've chosen, that's the real Buster in the middle there, look, isn't he cute? He's not white anymore. The reason I did that was because I'd always wanted to write something about Buster because he was just like a constant companion to John. And then when we got to Australia, it was, there's some things that need to be highlighted. And so the dugong was the first one. Then I heard that after all the fires and the floods and that, the koala was in trouble too. So I wrote the koala, and the koala is called Bubbles after my mum. She's a West Ham supporter. I'm forever blowing bubbles. So she became Bubbles. And the numbat was the next one, and that's named after my sister, Sammy. And because it was her idea, she said, please do the numbat. It's so cute. So we did the numbat. And then the last one was the quokka. But it's so cute, that little quokka. Little rat.
So good. So for people who want to register to get their freebie, what have you got prepared for people today?
Well, they can go to jansbookshop.com. Very, very easy. And then you click on special offers. And so I've got 4 together, 5 together, and then all 9. So you can choose, or you can just buy them one at a time on the other page, which just says shop. But they're a special price. They're, a little bit cheaper for you.
Very good. Very, very good. Any final words before we sign off today's podcast?
I think my main thing is to keep everything centered around God, because if God's not in the center, then life is pretty horrible, really. I look at some people out there, especially since COVID and everything else that's come, with the end of the pandemic and all of that, and the CBDC coming and all of that stuff. And I just see there's so many people out there that if they don't have God, I don't know what they do without him. I mean, I know I'm only 14 years old and I did a lot without him. But when I look back, I can see where he was, where he's nudged me or where he's gone, don't go there. And, I lived next to a drug guy when I was in Toxteth. I didn't even know those leaves he was weighing was anything to do with drugs. I was so innocent. But he's kept me away from things like that. And that's really what he wants to do. He wants you to find what's in here that he's put in there. It's in there because he's put it there. Bring it out, but make sure that you listen to what he's saying, obey him, even if it seems weird, because I've done some weird things, and make sure that he's always in the center. Pray every day, put your armor on, because when you put your feet on the floor, you want the devil to say, uh-oh, she's up. I'm sure that's what the devil says when you jump out of bed.
So good. Oh, folks, get along to the link. You'll be sent through to Jan's Bookshop and you can buy those bundles of books. Support local authors, folks. Support conservative authors. Support family-focused authors. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Fair Business Australia podcast. If you have a business or community story or offer that you'd like to share with our community, we'd love to hear from you. Got around 120,000 and growing that you will go out to. Have a great day. Once again, you're awesome. Chat soon and God bless.
Welcome to the Fair Business Australia podcast. Future-proof your business, impact your community. I'm your host, Rebecca Lloyd.